Let's call this meeting to order. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have been supporters of a new program called Building Together. And this morning, Jeff Holthouse is here to give us a little update on where they're at with that. And Tim, you're welcome to come up too and add anything that you have. So come on up and tell us how things are going.
So sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir. Well, this is a meeting I've anticipated as quite an opportunity to report in on something we all decided to experiment with. And every person in this room has been remarkably supportive. And I can't begin to thank you enough for that fact. My report to you this morning is, I guess the way I would look at it, one towards friends, because you've been so strong in your support and cheerleaders, really, for helping people in recovery actually move forward in life. So that's what we have been attempting to do here. Building Together is a program that basically takes people that are in recovery and not very far in the process and teaches them building trades and life skills. The primary focus being we get a side benefit of housing getting restored and back on the tax rolls. The individuals are what we're aiming at here. The houses are just a vehicle for the relationships, the life skills, the sewing into the individuals, and teaching them basic skills that will allow them to have a new life. So this meeting is really to report in how that's going. I can tell you right off the bat that I know that I have learned as much from these individuals in the program as they've learned from me. It has been quite an interesting roller coaster ride to begin with, but it is one that is smoothing out. None of us were naive going into this. We all said there's going to be things we don't expect, but we're going to learn. And we're going to ultimately come to a place where we look at this and decide, does it make sense to move forward? Well, I can say, tipping my hand, I definitely believe it's worth moving forward. But it's not exactly what we envisioned. Surprise, surprise. To date, we were given 3 houses, but 2 properties. There's 2 on 1028 Butler, 1 on 1217 Cross Hall. The Cross Hall home has received about everything it needs. We're down to just a couple little things there, some outside trim coil on a door. It's basically had its final inspection, and so there's just a couple little nitpicky things we knew. We kind of hopped off that job to get back to Butler, because it had no insulation in the house, no heat. This thing, all 3 houses, we took trailer loads to the dump of refuse. It's been a remarkable situation to see just how far down these houses went. So they're a perfect playground to teach guys building skills, the whole gamut. has been part of this. So there's nothing that we haven't worked with. And that part of it is just really neat to see them grow in confidence. I know that the individuals that have been in the program, our longest individual is 4 months. We've had some disappointments. But the guy that's, he's not far from graduating. He's kind of on the home stretch, and man, that guy is good. He really has a lot of self-confidence. His life is really moving forward. I expect that he will easily get a job with a construction firm. It's a no-brainer. He could go do it right now. The fact that he wants to stay the extra couple months is really more that he's learning so much all the time that he wants to continue. But beyond that, it's a supportive environment. I care about these guys, and they know it. We care about each other as a team. And there's kind of this really cool dynamic that's going on of connection and trust and love, to be honest, because that's what this program's about, to develop individuals that actually have a sense of worth, moving out of a place where they felt worthless. If we can do that, this is worth doing. So my opinion is, and we've had a couple setbacks, like I said, we had a guy leave the program after 4 months. But I think he had an agenda of his own, if you want my honest opinion, to kind of manipulate his way, because it turned out that he was going to end up having to serve some time, and we didn't know it. That said, at this point, like I say, there's been many modifications. We are doing very thorough background tests, checks, very thorough. And so we know that we're not going to face that in the future. This guy still ended up with a skill set, and I think through the course of time it will genuinely pay him in his life.
Now, did he stay sober though, too? I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
That's
We've
probably
had
the most important part.
Yeah. We've had a couple guys relapse. That happened at the transitional time between them leaving CRT and moving into one of our houses, Cross Hall. That's been a problem and something we've addressed at this point. And this may not be the most popular idea, but I believe sometimes you can do too much for somebody. And what I've learned from those individuals is this: they have too much time. If they just get to move into a house and don't really need a second job, they have too much time. And that, in both cases of relapse, was what happened. So we're going to do a pivot with the program, and I've already decided that it is in the interest of the individuals that we help them, and this is what Bridges does anyway, help them navigate getting housing, and in a serious way. So depending upon what their needs are, it may go so far as to sew in monetarily so that we get them housed, but then they continue to sustain that through their own work. Now, building together is a 24-hour-a-week job, so they would need a second job. But that's going to take up their time, and also makes them have more traction and responsibility for their life. So that said, our current trajectory is, since our lane is to help people be housed, and we feel like if we act as a rental agency, we're going to end up kind of with a conflict of interest. We don't ever want to be in a position where we might need to evict somebody. That's not what Bridges does. So what we're going to pivot to is to sell these houses so they're back on the tax rolls. Move that money back into the program. We were initially going to rent so that we were in a position to kind of really help the guys in the transition, but it turns out that's not happening. So by selling, and the rental was obviously going to plow back in the program, and we're looking at sustainability. And I can tell you from this analysis, and well, basically this is every single dollar that's been spent up through last Friday and how it was spent. we're on track to get our 3 houses done, give or take. It's interesting because the individuals in the program essentially have so many things they have to navigate between court dates and IOTs and all of the various process they're going through in recovery, that they're not very consistent as a workforce. I get them when I get them, and that's okay, because I don't mind navigating with them. They can't go get a regular job and have that happen. So this is a transitional program. That said, it's hard to forecast exactly what we're going to get done and when we're going to get it done. So saying I can get this many houses done in this amount of time with this amount of dollars is kind of tough. We didn't even know what we were going to get with Butler. As it turns out, though, I think our forecast was fairly honest, fairly good. I think we have about 100 and, if you take out a grant we got in another source, about $115,000 left, and we're about halfway through our program. So sometime around May or June, I think we'll have all 3 houses done, and we have, I think, some really, really good stuff happening besides just getting housing redone for the city. So I just want to run down a quick list with you and then I'll close. But I think one of the greatest things that I see is I've had to learn to see what are wins. What's a win? What does that really mean with this group of people? So here's a list that I've said that I believe are really strong wins, no matter how long somebody's in the program. They get interview experience. There's a waiting list to get in this. So we're scrutinizing the individuals that are allowed in. They have to have personal goal setting. They need to develop a life plan and be able to see that and talk with us about it. Obviously, they get life skills. I don't know if you know it, but you all have 4th grade math that you're used to using in your life, and these individuals have not. So I am a 4th grade math teacher, because as a construction individual, you need to be able to convert to decimals and fractions from a tape measure. You need to be able to do the analysis of how many deck boards do I need, or how many wall studs do I need. All of that math is critical, and what I have found is that even though an individual may know how to read a tape measure, it doesn't mean they know 4th grade math. So that's an interesting dynamic, and they're loving it. They are loving this aspect, because what they get, no matter how long they're in the program, is the ability to do that math. So now they don't have this shortcoming. This is big. They develop a strong work ethic because we work hard. They develop excellent connection, team environment, positive feedback, self-confidence. We get blight elimination. We get more affordable houses put on the market instead of being burnt out and just hard on neighborhoods. They get flexible work hours, and every day they're in the program, they're use-free. One more win. So in summary, I would say that I highly recommend the program. I think that as we move forward, we get better and better at the teamwork side and the cooperation side and the positive environment and all of the things that make them sing as individuals. That was kind of a harder road to get here, to be able to stand in front of you and say, yes, I think that this thing has enough traction and enough wind to keep going. Because we all said to begin with, let's be honest. Let's just see what happens. I appreciate the opportunity for us to do that. And moving forward, it's really up to you whether you see this as something that will continue to grow and help our city and the individuals that are in the program. But thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Anybody?
Of course, there's a little shift in the initial plan that I have some questions about. Number one, do you see this program being self-sustaining without future opioid settlement contributions in the near future? And do you, are you planning to, you wish to put Crosshaul on the market pretty soon?
Great questions, anticipated questions. So Crosshaul is a good example. I would love to put a new roof on that house before we put it on the market. It is not something that Building Together employees, participants, really are being trained on.
Yeah, that's a different skill. Roofing
is.
is, right.
And they know how, the concept stuff, but I don't want them on a roof. That said, if what our focus is to do moving forward, and first to answer your question, I think opioid settlements are necessary, and I'm about to explain why. I would like to be able to expand the program. I would like to be able to make sure that houses that we put on the market are certainly ready for an owner that is going to buy a lower cost home, and that's what we're shooting for as a market, doesn't end up being tied with a responsibility for a major expense. So the roof side of it I've kind of put off. Knowing if we were going to rent these houses, we probably would need to do some repair, but we'd limp along rather than spend the money in that way. So it was more invested in the individuals. So I see the houses as a bonus that infuses capital into them in ways that we've not given ourselves permission to do. For instance, we're still using my tools because until this was proven, why would I want to spend these settlement funds in a way that maybe isn't long-term? That said, there's still a capital investment that needs to happen. So when we really look at if we're trying to expand, make sure that the houses are maybe to a higher class when we go and list them so that the owners don't have anything. To me, since we know every dollar is accounted for, since we know we're being very frugal with this money, I think that's a question that's a perfect question, but it's not one I could even begin to say we could go through this next cycle without help. But I'll be totally honest with you in the future as to whether, we're seeing enough return on these houses where we wouldn't need as much. But I guess I'd ask for what we can get with this so we can make sure that we can keep pedaling the bike, so to speak.
So you have not really made a decision to sell any of the 3 homes?
Crosshaul is very close to being ready to sell. Not the right time of year to do so, but yes, I do intend to list it. But I do want to put a new roof on it. So the timing of this meeting kind of says, hey, we can either feel the support to move forward, and if so, I'm going to put a new roof on that thing before I put it on the market. Otherwise, I might not.
Without a roof, do you think it would jeopardize VA or FHA financing?
I know it will,
You don't think it could get a VA or FHA loan?
which is critical. So,
Yes,
yeah.
for a lower income. Do you have any idea what it might be assessed at?
My guess, and we'll know tomorrow.
Appraised at, I should say. I'm too assessment oriented.
I'm with you. I'm guessing based on the neighborhood, 65, 70. So we will have turned a house that really had no kitchen floor because it had a fire, holes in the outside of the house, just a total trashed out mess that was just due to be torn down into a decent house.
Do you think it had maybe a negative value?
Oh, I'm absolutely certain there wasn't anybody that would even entertain that house based on all that it had. But you go in that house now, and it is a very nice house. We added a bedroom, so it's a 3-in-1. It is,
The front room is now a
Nice
bedroom
house.
and a parlor.
yeah, yep.
Tim, anything you want to add?
Just very briefly. Yep, I know our time's up, so I'll just keep it real brief. So Will has, kind of thinking about, from your perspective and, from an investment standpoint, you look at the sheet that Jeff gave you and you can see how the dollars were stewarded well and accounted for well. And I think you would have expected that for sure. But I want to say that same philosophy and that same principle of good stewardship is what has been happening with not only the dollars and the properties, but with these gentlemen as well. What Jeff has been doing with these guys is just unbelievable. I mean, working several years in recovery and working with hundreds of individuals that are in that, it's understood what it is that these guys need to move forward. It can be individualized, but they need connection, they need purpose, they need housing, they need income. There's a whole list of things that they need to really solidify their recovery. And not to mention the emotional connection and all of that happens, but everything that's built in this program that has been tweaked. I mean, we both live and breathe it. He lives and breathes it twice as much. But the investment that's went in these guys, unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about even with some of the non-wins, like a guy who leaves the program. I'm thinking of one guy that left the program, but he is now working as an addictions counselor at Centerstone. He left the program. He wasn't a fit for this, but some good things happened. I had a guy that had the relapse, but yet he went back to a program, and now he's got a number of days under his belt again, and he's clean again, and he's doing good now. So there's so many tweaks and things that we've made, but the interactions here is just unbelievable. All these guys, even the ones that have left, will tell you the same thing. I mean, what they have felt and the support that they have felt is unbelievable. And Jeff's role as a mentor and a coach and a teacher and a trainer and all of this, it's just unbelievable. So the recovery side of it is really something we're super optimistic about. So much progress has been made. So the houses are exciting, the dollars are exciting, but it's worth the investment in these guys to keep pushing forward for sure. So, but yes, I just wanted to make sure again say thank you, but also I want to take every public opportunity to thank Jeff for the effort he has put into these guys. Just unbelievable, and it has been a roller coaster. It's been some difficult days. When you invest that much into someone and then they relapse, I know what that's like to feel that. That's difficult, and it's hard not to carry that. But we persevered and made some really cool changes with the program to adjust for it. We have a 1-week trial now. We have a 30-day probationary period now. We have a more in-depth background check that we're doing. We're doing the drug test more regularly. We got a lot of different things we've inserted in to ensure success moving forward. So, but anyway, just wanted to kind of add that in there. And again, thank you for the support thus far.
But you are asking for a pretty major adjustment in the program outline as, it was presented and
Yes.
the grant was awarded.
Yep.
And you mean from the standpoint of the housing element?
Right, I mean, because we made this award that it would be self-sustaining and that the housing would be, that your program participants would be housed by the self-sustaining program. So this is a major shift in the award parameters.
They will be housed. This we know. We're just going to pivot some so that they have more skin in the game, so to speak, and don't have all this extra time, because we feel that directly contributed to the ones that relapsed.
But they won't be housed in the houses that we've contributed in addition to the opioid dollars, the Commissioner's sale contribution properties.
Yeah, let me speak to that a second, because probably nearly half, and 3 of the 4 that are in the program now are guys who are in the Centerstone Recovery Transitional Housing. So they're in the 3-month program with Centerstone. And so a transitional house like that, what would be used to be called a halfway house or sober living facility, that has that kind of structure requires more than what our capacity can do. And we knew that. So we thought we're going to kind of do this hybrid where we'll just give the guys a place to stay. But what we have kind of been reminded of, and a tenet of recovery work, is that you don't do any harm. And so what we have discovered is that when the guy, in 2 cases now, as soon as the guy left CRT, after having 3 months of living structure, moved into our place, and at the time it was by themselves, it was in short order that they relapsed because of that free time, and they were still working. And so we had to really think about that in not only the life of the program, but in the health and well-being of the people. So taking them from this heavily structured environment and then moving into there at a low rent, like Jeff said, where the rent is very low, where they don't have to go get another job, it just created, it was kind of a perfect storm. And that may not happen with other guys. So we had to think about that shift. And of course, we had to keep one eye on what are we going to do for sustainability if we don't get additional funding. So that does appear like that's the right move at this point for us, for sure.
Well, we'll need to work through this in the coming months, but let me go to Brad. Do you have comments? or
Yeah,
questions?
first of all, I want to thank you guys. I mean, we knew going into this that this was kind of an experimental program. And I appreciate your honesty and seeing that you had to shift some things, how you initially said. And I personally don't have an issue with you shifting and saying we're going to sell the houses now, because you can put
You
that
need to
money,
understand it.
you can put the money back into the program. So thank you for that. And then also, I look at the program as a success. If you've had one or two people that are staying sober and got a skill that they didn't have before in 6 or 8 months, I take that's a win for us.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if we
They're
can
alive.
continue to do that, then that's a positive thing for our community. And we're allowing houses to go back on the tax roll. We're providing housing. We need upper end homes just as much as we need lower end homes. So selling them is a great idea to get more money, and have all these other things happen. What I would recommend before you sell it, and this is not because I'm an appraiser, but it's because I'm in the real estate market and have been for a long time, get an appraisal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that you know what your profitability is based on what you've put into it and then that, and the second thing is that now is a good time to sell.
Okay, thank you.
It doesn't, it normally, yes, it would be, coming into the holidays or Christmas. There's such a housing shortage right now, there is no bad time anymore.
Okay.
There really isn't. So if you think you're going to do that and you want to get the roof on it, get it sold, because it will sell quickly.
And I
If you
think,
had a roof, you could probably get an owner-occupied buyer.
Yeah.
Without a new roof, you could probably get a landlord.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see that doesn't happen.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but
then you need a new roof.
yeah.
and I think this may be something where we can look at it as an opportunity to get other people involved. So
Great.
just because you need a roof and it's not something that you want these guys to do, let's go to the community and say, hey, we need a roof in order to turn this house so that we can continue the program. Here are the benefits. And there may be somebody out there who's able and willing to do it either free or at a reduced cost, particularly, excuse me, on the side of, I'm a contractor, this is a potential source of employees in the future, let's get connected with building together and let's be part of the team. So I think it's an opportunity that you really want to take a hard look at, and if there are things we can do to help, let us know. Don't ever hesitate to pick up the phone.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thanks for coming in today. We
for your time.
appreciate it, and we'll keep in touch
Yeah,
with
we'll
you. You
definitely
do the
keep in
same.
touch.
You have win. Skip a beat, win.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
So,
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Any roofers out there who want to give Jeff or Tim a call and be a part of the team, feel free to do that. They're in need. So thanks for the work you're doing, and we look forward to continuing to work with you.
Or roofing suppliers.
Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Mike Sharp. Good morning, Mike.
Morning.
So
Do we know any roofers with,
last week, we received bids, and you've got recommendations for us.
Yep. One additional, for the minutes, one additional bid was actually received in timely fashion. It's just we didn't get to it till after the bid opening had been concluded.
how did that happen? Do we know how that happened?
It was in the mail. It actually was
Actually,
one of
it
the
was-
few that had been mailed, and
Yeah, it was
didn't
either,
pick it up.
was it mail or FedEx?
It was U.S. mail.
US mail.
So it was downstairs in the
Yeah,
slot
it
or
was in the
something?
mailbox.
It was postmarked before the date, so they'd send it in the mail, and it just didn't arrive.
And I've advised Mike that he can consider that bid if he chooses.
Okay, so it wasn't physically here, but they postmarked it in time for priority mail to get here?
It was physically here. We just had not gotten the mail from downstairs yet, is my understanding. So when they
The mail
went
comes at
downstairs to get it.
10:30.
Oh,
So anyway,
okay.
what are you recommending to us, Mike?
So on the first one, for the liquid asphalt bids, we got 4 bids. The lowest bidder was Marathon Petroleum Company. The next bidder would have been Terry Asphalt Materials, and then K-Tech Specialty Coatings, and then Asphalt Materials. Kind of what we've done in the past, we ran into an issue. It's been several years, but we've accepted the bids because we've had some that won the bid and then we didn't accept any of the other bids, and then they could not follow through and provide the material. Marathon Petroleum Company, I have talked to them. We've used them in the years past. It's been several years since we've used them. They are the lower price bidder, but we've had some issues with them going back several years, a couple of different issues with their product. So what I'd like to do is kind of accept their bid, but kind of be upfront with them and tell them we're not going to be giving them all the business. I want to use some of their material, kind of see how it works, see how it uses. Sometimes on the ceiling part, you put it down and sometimes you don't know there's a problem with it until 6 months later and you see how it holds up and so forth. So we've had some major issues with them. One of them was on, this has been several years ago, but Salisbury Road, south of Test Road. We had sealed that and the product wasn't right. We ended up having to go in there and pave that road, which is very costly to the county, and Marathon didn't stand behind that part of it. So we don't want to get in a situation like that. So the other ones we've used from them, when like K-Tech got it 1 year, they were kind of a new company. I used a little bit of theirs, did some test runs on them before we actually brought them in and would use them fully. So kind of wanted to do the same thing with Marathon. So Terry Asphalt Materials would be probably who would primarily use, but I'd also want to use some of the other ones, kind of do some testing. And in the past, just to kind of stay up with some of the other companies, I've done test roads where we'll kind of shoot one product, but side by side and in different areas, and we kind of do some test runs on them. So for the liquid asphalt, I would recommend accepting all those bids for that.
I move that we accept Mike's recommendation to be able to utilize all 4 bidders.
Mike, is that an escalating bid? Is it a base and a rack price type of thing?
Yes, it is an escalate bid. Typically, since I've been doing it, it's been that way, but they've never changed their pricing. But yes, the pricing could change
So
based on the escalation.
Be another event.
But what I do is, so when they put their bids in, I set a base date. So the base date is December 4th. So everybody bases their pricing that they give us on December 4th. So if they have a price increase or decrease, it's all based on what the market is on December 4th.
Okay. All right, there's a motion to approve all 4
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Then for the hot mix, we got 2 bids on that. One was Milestone, one was our mix. Prices were down for both of those with what the market has been doing. What we do with those is recommend to accept both of them, and then we kind of split it. So Centerville Road's kind of our center of our county, so Milestone's on the eastern part of the county, our mix is on the western part of the county. So depending on where we're located, that's where we pull out of.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Mike's recommendation of approving both?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Was our
Motion
mix
carries.
the bidder that was late? I mean, that was, okay.
No, they were present.
They were, okay.
Okay, stone and gravel.
So stone and gravel, we kind of do the same thing. IMI, US Aggregates and Barrett Paving Materials. IMI is basically priced the same as what they were in '24. US Aggregates had an increase. Barrett Paving Materials, the 53s are the same price, but the riprap increased by $2. We kind of do the same thing with these companies, depending on where we're located. So a lot of times IMI is on the western part of the county, US Ag's on the eastern part of the county for gravel. Barrett Paving Material is a stone supplier, so they're the only stone supplier in Wayne County. So depending on what type of material we need and then where we're located is kind of who we use for those. So I'd recommend accepting all of those bids.
Do we have a
Move for
motion?
approval,
Do we have a second?
all three bids.
Motion and a second to approve all three bids. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
When you accept these bids, all of them, is there a volume that you have to meet to get that price?
No.
All right, culvert pipe.
So culvert pipe, we had three bidders, Silvacon, St. Regis, and E3 Bridge. So this one varies a little bit. It was a book like this thick, so when you look at the pricing, but for the most part, Silvacon was about 4.2% down to the same. St. Regis and E3 Bridge, both of those were about 5.5% down on the smaller pipes, but then they were the same price as on the bigger pipes. St. Regis has an escalate de-escalate clause in their pricing, where Silvacon has a firm price. So my suggestion is St. Regis still outbid E3 Bridge. They were still cheaper than what E3 Bridge was on their pricing. So I'd accept both St. Regis and Silvacon. And then when we go to order pipes, what we'll do is we'll call and check with what the pricing is at St. Regis. So if the market is down, then we'll buy it from St. Regis. But if the market's back up, then we've got a fixed price with Silvacon.
Okay.
Move to accept superintendent's recommendation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then we go to the fuel bidding for the highway department, and this is just for the highway department where we would have tankers brought in. We did have three bidders. The Mansfield Service Partners were the ones that came in the mail. That was not here at the actual opening, but did come in the mail. But the pricing that they had, they only bid on flex pricing, which is an escalate de-escalate clause in that. They did not bid on the fixed pricing. The other two, Petroleum Traders and Keystone Cooperative, both bid on both options for the flex and the fixed pricing. Kind of my recommendation for this is, and they're all down, it's a kind of a decrease from about 30 to 61 cents, depending on which one you're looking at. The price is going down. We've been going to a fixed pricing for several years. We've done very well with that, but with kind of looking at the outlook and kind of the reading I've been trying to do and look out, I'm thinking that we may be best to go to a flex pricing for 25. Obviously, if there's some catastrophe war or something like that, that could come back and bite you, but I think the prices are going to trend down. So my recommendation would be go with the Mansfield Service Partners. I have talked to them, kind of looked at the background. We've not used them in the past, but I've done some research on them. They're not a small company. I think they're based out of Texas, but they have a company in Troy, Ohio, that would be pulling out of. They actually give two bids. One was from a Dayton terminal, one was from an Indianapolis terminal. The Indianapolis terminal was cheaper, so the fuel would actually be coming from Indianapolis over. But with the pricing, as you can see, I think they're around on the unleaded about 4 cents cheaper, and then on the diesel they're about 10 cents cheaper on the next bidder on that. So my recommendation would be go to with a escalate de-escalate clause and do the fixed flex pricing on those.
The flex price, okay.
The flex price, not the fixed price.
Correct.
They did not bid a fixed price.
They did not. The other two did, and if you choose to go with the fixed pricing, then I would probably suggest going with the petroleum traders. But my recommendation is to go with the escalate, de-escalate clause, given what the market is. I think, yeah, I don't think it's going to drop way low, but the way we've been set up and looking, just the way the prices have been trending and going down, I think there's a chance that they'll keep on going down and then kind of retake a look at it.
Have you done the flex pricing in the past?
We have, yes. It's been several years. We've been on fixed pricing probably since 2008, I want to say. I started with the fixed pricing. Before that, we was always a flex pricing. We never did a fixed pricing. So 2008 was our first fixed pricing. Over the years, I think just with the highway department, we probably saved over $1 million from what we've tracked with the fixed pricing and what the market's done. 2020, obviously, the prices went way low when we lost on that year, but we had that pandemic come through, and fuel prices went way low when we were set at that fixed pricing. So we did lose in that year, but all in all, for the most part, we've done better with the fixed pricing. But like I said, just kind of watching the markets and doing some research on it.
I think you may be right with a change in administration, the new president's aggressiveness in drilling and pipelines. I think we will probably see a decrease in.
And I'm not saying, next year we may look back at the flex pricing and see what it does. It may drop down and then we may want to get back into the fixed pricing, but just my gut feeling is, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's just kind of what my recommendation is.
I don't have a problem with going with the flex pricing based on your recommendation, just knowing what I know in the market, what I've seen, but.
What's our commitment on gallons on this?
There is no commitment. So if you do a fixed pricing, that's when you have to commit your gallons. But flex pricing, you do not commit because you're doing whatever the market is.
Okay.
Forgive me if you've given us a recent update, but how did we do in 2024?
As far as pricing, I think we were at the highway. We probably lost about $1,000 because we were on our fixed pricing because the prices have come down here. Part of that, though, is we carried some over. So since 2020, we've been having this carryover every year, and we dropped our gallons down this year to where we were lower gallons. But beginning of this year, we were paying a higher price because we were carrying over from 23 into 24. So that's kind of, the numbers are a little finagled from a losing standpoint, from that standpoint of it. But the way the market is, I think the market's down now. We just got fuel in a week or two ago. It's down from where we were set in with our fixed pricing. So we paid a higher price here a few weeks ago because the prices were down on that.
So our fixed pricing gamble did not have a big win, but not a big loss.
Correct.
We just did not expect how low the prices.
Part of the loss was in 24 is because we had to bring over some carryover because of our contract prices that we did not fill. And our winters haven't been as bad, I guess. And so that plays a big part in some of the fueling at the highway. If you have a bad winters and you're out all the time, then you're going through more fuel.
There's just a whole lot of variables, so to only have lost $1,000.
But if you go back over since 2008, like I said, I think we're $1 million gain from doing the pricing. So
$1 million gain means that
you can lose some.
good gambler. Yeah.
So do we have gallons that we need to buy still?
No, for 24, because I set my numbers lower for this year to make sure we got through it all. And yes, we received all of our gallons.
All right.
So there'll be no
I'll make a
carryover.
motion that we approve the contract bid with Mansfield Services for the
flex price.
flex pricing.
I'd like to second that. I'm just wondering if you have spoken with any other highway departments, county highway departments about Mansfield or vetted them in any way since they're a new provider?
I've not talked to actual highway departments, but I did some research. I've talked to a couple different people at the company to make sure that, they're an outstanding company and that they're worthwhile.
They're solid, they're not.
It's not a place that I really heard of, so that's why I wanted to do research, and so this past week I've done some research to
You've
make sure.
checked them out, they're not on the brink of bankruptcy or anything? Okay, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Drill, baby, drill.
And then on the non-highway fuel, we had one bidder. It was Keystone Cooperative. So their unleaded price at fixed price was 2.8356, and then the de-escalate pricing was 2.4936. Last year, we did 60,000 gallons is what we were in fixed pricing. The price last year that we were paying in '24 was $2.98. We contracted 60,000 gallons. I think we typically, looking over the past years, we contracted that because we've been around 62 to 65,000 gallons is what we normally spend. When I checked the other day, we were 87,000 gallons is what we'd use. So the county departments have done a lot more driving this year than what we've had in the past few years. But
You know which department? Is it all sheriff or?
I didn't check.
You know,
I didn't get that deep
Sheriff
into
is
it.
the heavy user, I'm sure.
But my recommendation on this one also would then be to, and I put down, I didn't change, they changed their name, and I didn't change it in that, but it'd be recommending the Keystone Cooperative, North Dakota Alliance quote for the flex pricing, and currently it's at 2.4936. And just to go back a little bit, so we were contracted at 60,000 gallons. We're at 87,000, so we're at the current market price now. So we did do more gaining because we got rid of that fixed price before these prices were going down. But I would kind of on this one too recommend going with the flex pricing.
Where's do they have a retail outlet here? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on 5th Street and then,
it's the co-op.
Oh, it's the co-op, okay.
It's-
Same place we've always went.
yeah, it used to be Farm Bureau, and then it was Harvest Land and,
Co-alliance and.
yeah, Co-Alliance, and last year was
Change
Co-Alliance and
names.
now it's Keystone.
Just educate me a little bit on this. So we're approving this from the highway department, but whose budget do these, like,
This is every individual
every
budget.
Every
county
department.
has a, so us saying not doing a fix could, and if it went up, affect the sheriff's budget or the
Sure,
Yeah.
health department's budget,
absolutely.
and we don't get input from them,
No.
especially the sheriff, since he's probably the largest user of,
He is.
just food for thought then next year.
Health
Maybe we might
departments.
want to get some input from them, since
Well-
I'm okay with the flex or whatever on this too, but it's more of a gamble now because we're,
I think the way that the fuel budgets have been set up, we kind of look at it in the fleet department, and the fuel is way higher. There should be money left over from last year still in there. There is a onslaught that I do like, that the fixed pricing, you know where your budget's at and you can set that budget.
That's what I was saying,
And you know
'cause you
where
set it
you're
based
at.
on your
So
budget.
that is a good
If you
theory.
know how many gallons you're gonna use, and clearly, we go from 60,000 to 87,000, there's a big change. in the
well, and I'm
number of
just wondering
gallons
too, a
used.
lot of that too, the sheriff vehicles now are Tahoes, larger Tahoes.
I'm sure it
The
is.
consumption is more on those, so.
Sure it is.
Transport for mental health patients.
This was thrown to me several years ago, I think after they seen how much money I was saving with the highway department on working with the fuel. So it was thrown to me, it wasn't something I took on myself, it was given to me and told me to do it, so.
We don't have any county diesel, no sheriff's buses or the Bearcat. Is the Bearcat diesel?
Yeah, and so is the MCU.
Yeah. So what do we do about diesel pricing for county vehicles?
They've got in their bid, there is a price for diesel on that. I just didn't put it on here because we don't use it very much. You
It's
don't have
not-
a Bearcat
but
yet.
So it would
there's
be
gonna be
flex
more,
also.
yeah.
I don't think your Bearcat's here yet.
I think we'll probably have more miles on the, more diesel purchases, and you want to flex the diesel too?
Yes, because you don't know how much you're gonna use.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
the
could-
diesel, you would probably
That's
always,
minimal in the
Budget,
overall
it won't be
budget.
the amount of diesel that the county would use in the non-highway is going to be very minimal, that you got to figure out how many gallons you want. So if you go into fixed pricing, you got to tell them how many gallons you're going to use.
With the
And I think that would be
MCU.
very hard with the vehicles that are,
Because it's brand new
Under diesel.
experience, I mean, with a much more,
Neither one
highway
of those vehicles are
or the-
gonna be driven that much.
And the Bearcat won't even be here until next year,
Yeah.
so, or the end of this year, or 25. so.
it'll be 25 though, I hope.
It would. So do we have a motion to approve Mike's recommendation
So
on
moved.
flex pricing with Keystone Cooperative? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Did we have an increase overall in a lot of budgets for fuel for 25? Does anybody recall?
I was thinking they kept them the same.
They're the same.
No, just no increase, no decrease, but we could very well have lower fuel expenditure.
And there were some transfers into fuel lines in budgets.
The other thing I had before you was some requests to hire.
Yes.
I do have a truck driver that's going to be, he turned in his 2-week resignation. The 27th is his last day. So he'll be leaving our facility, so request to hire that truck driver. And then in January 10th, I've got a sign person. The current sign person is set to retire. So that will be posted. I will move from inside probably. Typically, there's always somebody that would want to move up to that position, but then that will leave another truck driver's position open. So
So that's
there's
why
kind
there's
of two
two
truck
truck
drivers
drivers.
position and a sign position.
So the request is to post.
For 2, right?
To hire, yeah.
Two.
They're budgeted positions, so.
And obviously, I won't hire anybody until those positions are opened and freed.
Don't need an overlap training period.
Because you won't have a vacant line item until your sign guy retires. Okay.
Right. So the actual, I won't hire a truck driver until after the January 10th. I won't move a sign guy up until after January 10th.
Right, gotcha.
Move to approve the request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these requests to hire. First, a truck driver, then a sign and striping position, and once that sign and striping position is filled, with an internal candidate is your intention.
Yes.
Then we would fill the final truck driver position. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We've got 3
Thank you very much.
forms to fill
Thanks,
here.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Merry Christmas.
All right, Chris.
And a happy new year.
I'm dreaming of a wet Christmas.
It's looking
So far, looking that way.
That's right. You don't want your guys out there on Christmas Day.
Okay. I spoke to Dan Burke yesterday, and we're working on some things with him, so he did not need to be here today. We'll be talking to him in January. Ron Cross.
Several items today. Start with the resolution for transferring the law enforcement emergency vehicle to Williamsburg Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
Resolution number 2024-018. We talked about that. This resolution identifies the proper VIN number that Steve's giving me, so.
3.
3.
Could you walk those down to Brad for me? Thank you. That way you can have them.
There you go. So we have discussed this a number of times. It went to the Fleet Committee. They're recommending that we go ahead and do this. Any questions on this process?
I think we've talked it to death. I'll move for approval for resolution 2024-1, or I'm sorry, 018.
All right.
18.
18.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next resolution is an ordinance. Ordinance number 2024-019. It's an exercise of your home rule authority to allow, or to require all transfers from accounts subsequent to final budget approval, requiring that they be approved by the physical body, which is the county council, prior to being transferred on the auditor's records. It requires an exhibit, which is this last draft of the policy the council has developed. So if you would prefer, we can deal with both these tonight, since this is going to have
Just
to.
three. I'm sorry, we're having
Do we need
conversation.
3 or 4 of this resolution signed for the car?
Just sign every one you got. I think I did 3.
Was Mike
There's 4
Statzer and
copies.
Karen?
I heard you, and I think we should do it tonight with council since it's a joint.
I think so too.
Their policy, I think, was in a little bit of flux, and I had some suggestions. So
And I've discussed it with Beth, and she seems to be fine with it and thinks that it will pass tonight, but I don't see any reason to pass it now if there
That's
are
fine.
going to be any changes.
that's fine. The next then is resolution 2024-020. It's a resolution that is authorizing reimbursement to county general, I guess, it would be,
Correct.
for monies that have been expended since subsequent to March 21. I believe is the date told was our maximum look-back date by Baker Tilly in that email.
Correct.
For monies expended on the exterior surface repair of the courthouse, which was the tuck pointing, sandblasting, actual repairs, replacement. Steve could probably expand on the scope of work, but I think you're aware of it. And this is in follow-up to the conversations we had with Baker Tilly last week as to options available to make sure that we have a fail-safe and not underspend our ARPA funds.
So
Undercommit.
remember that the tentative line item for the new elevator paid for out of ARPA was going to be $850,000. The bid that came in exceeded that and did not include everything that is required to complete that build out. So in my opinion, we're not in a position to proceed with that, but we do still need to commit the $850,000 of ARPA funds. They have to be obligated by the end of this year. So in
And
talking
that means that they have to be, if you saw Jason's email, they have to be transferred and paid back to county general before
Correct.
the year end.
And so I talked to Mark Holscher yesterday, explained the situation, and he is more than willing to do that if we get the proper paperwork approved. And so this will involve a claim, and the number, remember too that Barry Ritter is working with us on reducing the ARPA funding for the radio system, because $100,000 of that was contingency, which may or may not be spent, and then another $60,000 is a contractual item that he believes will most likely not be spent. So with the potential that money would not be spent, we wanted to move it out of ARPA and make sure that we spent that. So we've added that, and I've got some documents here that
And those are 2 separate claims then?
they're, well, no, it'll just be one claim.
One transfer.
One claim, because there's more than enough.
This is incomplete, this resolution, because I needed, A, the fund number that we're talking about, and B, we weren't sure exactly when I did this template yesterday, what the final number was going to end up being.
Okay, and so that number, if you look at this, the top sheet is ARPA-funded projects worksheet, and line 7, you see active projects. So the first column tells you what the project is, The second column is the budget amount of ARPA funds that we initially held that placeholder. The column D is the final amount, and you'll see that the ARPA funding is all in black now as final, not estimated. So we've got final numbers all the way down, which totals $11,669,176. And that leaves $828,019 that needs to yet be obligated. And so the intention, Steve, do you have the list of, I've got it here. So we went back to what we paid out of general fund for the stonework on the courthouse. And that exceeded $1 million. And so we have to go to specific payments out of the general fund for that project. And we have those listed here. We will be reimbursed. We will reimburse ourselves out of the lost revenue ARPA funds to the tune of $831,919. That's a total of five separate payments between July of 2023 and December of 2023. So those fall within the proper time periods, and we will pay ourselves back $831,919 using each of those payments. And that will take care of the funding that is not currently obligated. So everything else on this list is obligated. Beth has the documentation. We've either already spent it or there's a contract in place to pay for it. So that will put everything in good order. I'm going to go through each of these tonight with council. So I can do that today, this morning if you want to, but I thought I'd just let you look at these, and I'll be around all day if you have questions. I can
Here's
answer those.
the resolution template itself. So my suggestion would be, I can complete the Exhibit A based on the information you
Based
give
on
me.
this.
And get the
then
fund number that we're talking,
Correct.
the unrestricted, or
the ARPA funds
this is coming out of lost revenue, isn't it?
well, it's the same fund. It's all
all one
ARPA
fund.
is in one fund.
So there's the template, and then I would suggest
And so we can double check, but it's 80, I'm not sure what.
831,919, is that the number?
I'm not sure. We'll double check it and make sure that we have
Okay.
everything in place for tonight.
And then we can execute that tonight during your action.
And then there
items.
will also be a claim tonight that will reflect those same numbers. And we can approve the claim, and that way tomorrow the auditor's office can go ahead and transfer.
And once the transfer, that's considered the expenditure, and
That is required. It has to be done before the end of the year.
That meets the obligation requirement.
Correct. So a lot of moving targets, but there's been a lot of people putting in a lot of hours on this to make sure that we have vetted, documented, put in place everything that needs to be in place. I talked to Steve yesterday again about, is there any possibility that any of these things that are under contract would come in under the contract amount? He said no. So speak up if that's not correct, but
We don't
that's
wanna
Not
give any
often
bad.
that we
You
hope
say.
that contracts come in under bid.
It's very unlikely. It would take it could go up, but it's not likely to go down, and certainly would require a change order. But we have what we think is a very tight, complete set of accounting here, and we need to adopt this tonight, both the resolution and approve the claim tonight so that everything is locked down.
We don't need to approve it this morning and then have council approve it tonight?
We can if you want to.
Wouldn't that be the more customary manner in which we approve things?
So this recommendation, if you want to, if we want to approve the list of expenditures as the
Subject to verification.
as the recommendation to council, we could certainly do that.
I mean, normally we approve something and then we can say to council, we have already approved it, so we're just asking for your, I think it carries a little more smack.
We're recommending it is what we'll be
Yeah.
doing. They have to also approve it, so.
Yeah, if
if
we
you
go
want
in
to make
without
that
it
motion.
recommended, it has a little less credence.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing this because of the impact on.
Is that a motion?
Before I make the motion, let me just ask, when will that joint meeting occur that will discuss all of these county projects that
Over the-
were
Over the
committed?
course of the next year or two?
Okay, because you still believe that there is an opportunity for some of these routine kinds of county projects, such as sump pumps and dump trucks, to be paid by non-ARPA funds, but out of our usual budgetary process. I mean, ARPA was tasked to pay for routine items.
We have
To
had this,
protect
we have
ARPA
had this
funds.
conversation.
But I just
Many,
want your assurance that you
many
will go
times.
forward in the next year to have that joint meeting with commissioners and council to,
I'm not
restore-
gonna commit to having one meeting where we decide how to spend
No, I'm not asking
all of
for-
that
but-
money. But over the course of the next 2 years, this commitment from council was that if we paid what would ordinarily have been a general fund expense, that general fund money will be available for our team of 10 to review and make recommendations. And that is still the case. This, I believe, bumps that number from 1,050,000 to 1,878,000.
and that's why I'm very enthusiastic about us going to council tonight with our recommendation. So I so
So is-
move that
Thank you.
we recommend to council this ARPA-funded projects worksheet, some with the 831,000.
Okay, we have a motion.
I will second that.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Amen.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Okay.
I just wanted to hear it from your trusted
From my
lips.
lips to God's ears,
Absolutely, so
And-
I'll be watching your
with the
agenda.
recollection that I have one commissioner vote. I don't have any council votes.
But you set the agenda.
I
You may not be
endeavor to do
president
that.
next year.
I may not be. After today, you may fire me.
That's
Who
right.
knows?
I'm
So,
looking at Aaron, he's shaking his head, so I don't know, maybe.
no, he's laughing. Okay. Ron,
The final action
Save
item,
me.
which is really not action, I want you to review this. This is kind of a little bit of a housekeeping for the Peter Boa new appointee. When I got into the statute again, it's been modified since the last time we had to do this. And given the fact that we really haven't been able to track whether the vacancy was from a person appointed by commissioners or council,
Okay.
political affiliation requires the consent, which generally would be evidenced by a resolution of both council, commissioners, and the assessor. So we're waiving the political affiliation requirement, would be no more than two of one party. And then council is waiving the levels requirement since this individual is coming at it from a history in the real estate arena. So this would be a joint resolution. So if you want to, I'd like to give you a chance to look at it. I think, Jeff, maybe you've seen it.
Look at it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
we
sent it
talked
to
about
us.
it last week.
Okay, did I can't remember. So that's fine, and we'll deal with it tonight if that's agreeable, because council's going to have to take action on it tonight.
And this is Bob Hobson.
Bob Hobson,
Okay.
Robert Hobson.
And so we also approved, I thought, or at least we discussed the issue of waiving the levels. So are they the only ones that have to waive the levels?
That's the way the statute
Really?
reads, but it's
Okay.
it's in there together, so to speak.
Okay.
It's a joint resolution, so
Do
I
you have
think.
this?
Yeah, I printed it from your
Okay,
email.
okay, that's good. I've got one. I'll
But
make
it's
sure we have
got
adequate-
Karen Stevens and Mike Statzer's name on it.
Yeah, that's because it was electronically sent. What I actually downloaded and printed was just the.
Then you don't want my copy.
I'll bring copies tonight.
Okay, and so you want us both to approve this tonight?
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that.
Yeah.
I think that's
Works for
fine.
me.
It doesn't need our
Sure.
credence.
Sure.
It's not the end.
And so also tonight, we approved and the city approved the gorge contribution out of ARPA. We have an interlocal agreement, and I think, Brad, you were online for that meeting. You voted in favor, but we need to get your signature. if you-
Bobby already did.
Okay, so council needs to approve that.
They
tonight.
do. It just says that the timeline isn't as critical. I think the obligation is created.
Well, I think
But
it's
it's-
critical because it's ARPA funds.
Well, let's just get it.
Exactly.
If we see the issue and avoid it, let's do so.
Exactly.
And that's fine.
Okay. So I'm just mentioning that so that I'm not the only one thinking about that, and in case I forget it tonight,
Okay.
let's get it. Is it on the agenda for workshop?
I believe it is.
Okay, let's make sure, okay, because if I have it in front of me, I'll lose it, and if I don't happen to think of it, Bobby will be able to remind me. Okay, Ron, what else have you got?
I think most of you were at least emailed on the exchange I had with Sheriff Redder. I don't know, I think if you were parties to basically, he had some concerns about the renewal issues with quality correctional care. The contract is up May 1, or April 31, I guess, of 25. We have a 120-day notice period that we're required to, either party is required to give the other in order to avoid a 1-year automatic extension. There are some issues that the sheriff has identified that he really has concern with, plus he's vetted some other possible service providers. So it was his request to me that I convey to you and see if there's agreement that the county itself issued the notice of that it will not allow the automatic renewal to occur. That gives us
I'm fine with
basically
that.
4 months to work with QCC and any other vendors. It will mean, and Bobby and you and I'll probably have to impose on Beth Fields between now and January 1 to kind of go through and dig out the specs that we used last time, because I think that's a fairly onerous
Yeah. it's big.
undertaking. And I've got a starting point. I've got a draft, but I think then we need to get with the sheriff or with whomever deputy that's involved and identify any areas of added services, deleted services aren't necessary. The specs need to reflect the reality, and I don't have a comfort level they do right now, but
So it seemed like one of the issues was the number of referrals of people to read,
that's a significant issue.
additional cost of that.
And he didn't give me a number, but apparently it is a significant number. And that's a little bit of a dancing on the pin of the needle type of issue, because if people need a level of care, we certainly want them
We need them to
referred to
get
the
it,
appropriate
right.
level of care.
Right.
So we'll have to kind of vet that
So
issue.
do we need to approve sending a letter of notification?
I think I would,
think we should.
since the executive body
do it.
is the
So
contracting
moved.
body, I think you
And
need,
you'll write the
I will
letter
prepare it and make
Okay.
sure that it gets out by the end of the
So-
month.
and I'll sign
Not
it?
automatically.
So you'll write the letter for my signature?
Right.
You are making
I'll make a motion
to
that
have
we
Ron do
allow
that.
Ron to draft a letter to send notice to QCC that we will not automatically renew the contract.
And that'll just be for the
And
president's
the president's
signature.
assigned.
Okay.
And I second that. You probably all saw my email that I've been tracking the increase in those read and in the outside medical expenses.
I haven't, and so I don't have that information, but I mean.
I agree with the
I think it's a
sheriff's
sanity
recommendation wholeheartedly.
sanity check type thing that needs to happen, because it could be an indirect could be hidden if somebody wasn't monitoring. You know, and we know we had some changes in level of services. The dental piece, the person retired, so now we've had to basically farm that out or contract it out. Okay, I'll make sure that happens then.
So we have a motion and a second to have Ron write the letter, me to sign it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And the only other issue that I had, I'd reviewed the Eland City in quote, and I think are you going to deal with that, Steve? Or
I'm going to talk about that.
okay, that's fine. So that's all I have.
All right.
I have a question for Ron.
Go ahead.
You were in the health board meeting yesterday. The health board made a recommendation to continue to have Mark Broker on the board.
But I
we
think we
that
thought
was-
he was a.
He was,
Mayor's appointment.
I
that
think the way we
appointment
did-
was the city's or recommendation, because we
Right.
vote for it, but he makes it.
Right.
So how do we want to handle that? Do we want to contact the mayor and say the board
I think
has?
they need to do the nomination and you need to do the appointment, and that was. the
Okay.
way
I thought that's what it was, so, but
Ron, can you give me a few notes on what we need to get from the city?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm actually meeting with the mayor this afternoon, so I'll take it over then
because I think his term is up
at the end of the year.
into
right?
the year,
So
so
they've had their last board meeting.
So I lost track of who took whose place. Did he take
He took Bob Coddington's.
Coddington's place?
The last year of Bob Coddington's.
he had 1 year.
And that was as a citizen appointee, as I recall.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I've got a file on that. It's just a matter of,
Okay.
you think about it and you get confused with the matrix.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not a factor as long as we have that appointment before their next board meeting.
And we're gonna meet again on the 2nd of January, and they don't meet
Okay,
until.
I just
Now,
want to
they
make
are
sure that we
moving-
don't,
They did vote to move their meeting from the third Tuesday to the second
second.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
But we will still meet before they do,
I just want to make sure we had all our ducks
We'll
in a
meet
row on
once
that.
before they will, but they will meet the day before
before our second,
a normally scheduled commissioners meeting,
correct?
which I think is much better than the way we used to be doing. So,
Yeah, I
I'll
think
get you
so.
some notes on that.
They used to meet the day
And then,
after we
yeah,
met, and
which-
then we couldn't do anything.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're.
No, that's good catch. Okay, so you'll get me some notes on what I need to get with the mayor about, and we'll take care of that. Okay, nothing else, Ron, for right now? Okay, then let's go to Steve Higginbotham.
All right, looking at your project sheets. Item number 3, the annex generator. I spoke with the contractor that we have on that. And in the next couple of days, we'll be meeting to schedule coordination of the final installation of the switch gear. And so this is going to entail coordinating with a couple of different companies. Number one, the company Cummins, the owner of, or the manufacturer of the engine, for the warranty to be kicked in, they have to be present for the startup, initial startup, to ensure that it's hooked up right. Same way with the manufacturer of the switchgear. And then the contractor is renting a smaller generator to run our sump pumps during this switchover. And then it occurred to me, Brad, do you know if the new mobile command center is equipped yet to?
I know they've been working on it, but I do not know if
Because,
it's operational at this point.
911 will need that.
So we'll have to coordinate with the sheriff
Yeah, so-
and Matthew to make sure that that's up and running. I know they've been working on it. I don't know where they are on.
And I know they were gonna take the air conditioning units out of the old one, so I assume there's holes in the roof of the old one. Anyway, this, as we talk through this, having that command center up and running and functional for 911 to go into, because there will be a period of time that the power will be completely off to, so that's where we are with the,
And we may have the old one available still, though.
well, the only thing with that.
I know they've been taking equipment
I
out of
think
that
they've
one.
taken the roof air conditioners off, so there may be a hole in the roof, but anyway. The X-ray and screening equipment, that number you see there in column C, that's the firm number, and you folks have approved this. And then Jeff, tonight you'll present that along with the prox card reader system number to council.
Correct.
And then the Coleman Center ceiling and lighting project that continues to go forward without any issues at this point. They expect to finish on time, which that should be before the end of the year.
And roofing,
Pardon me?
and the roof,
Roof's finished.
Roof
It's
is finished
totally
and the
finished.
ceiling is what they're
and
working on
totally,
now.
yeah, so that's been totally paid out and everything.
The roof has been paid out. This is the remaining balance.
So that's all that's remaining on the ceiling and lighting.
Correct.
Great.
HVAC and Expo, remember we were waiting on that final pay number, and that now is what you see there in column H and I. The $2,777 will come from ARPA, and then the $35,000 will come from council's one time. And that's a little bit of a reduction from the project. Remember, we had a change order where we didn't paint the inside of the duct work inside. That was a deduct. We had a change order to reroute the gas piping, but it was a negative number result, so we got a deduct in the overall project. So that's the remaining balance. The hardscape landscape, again, same thing. That's the firm number. And again, Jeff, you'll be talking to the council tonight on that, and we'll have a contract to execute tonight as well.
Correct.
Cabling project continues. Prox card lock system, again, just waiting on the final determination and approval on that tonight. And then the courthouse elevator, for that one, we received one quote. And after review, you heard Jeff talk a little bit earlier in the meeting. We received one bid on that, and that was from Thor Construction. The bid amount was $1,040,000. The alternate, which was the upgrading the existing elevator, was $485,000. Certainly, this is substantially more than what we anticipated. Plus, it does not include, I call it a flue, but it's a large 4-foot diameter flue that is inch thick, is where the old furnaces back decades ago, and they abandoned it in place, but once the potential bidders got into the estimating, this was a significant undertaking. So the one bidder didn't even bid that portion of it. So that would be in addition to the bid that that I just read to you. So
Flue removal?
That that shaft is gonna be part of the new elevator
Correct.
shaft.
Correct. It has to be removed.
So it has to.
Or we can't
Flue
put an
removal.
elevator in it.
So at this point, my recommendation is we reject this bid and reevaluate the project.
So
What was
moved.
the architect's estimate
The architect said it was
$850,000,
with the alternate?
No, the alternate was $450,000.
$450. So the alternate
So-
wasn't dramatically out of line, but it's, if we don't have a new elevator, then we're gonna be without an elevator
Yeah,
for
that's not-
months.
That just
And
can't
that's
happen.
That's not,
Not something we can afford to do, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
we have our annual elevator inspection next week, where the company comes in and actually looks at all the equipment and,
That's actually that's the manufacturer, and it's not the Department of Homeland Security.
no, this is the manufacturer comes in, yeah.
So I think they file a report with the Department of Homeland Security.
Correct. And so the elevator will be down about 3 hours max. They anticipate something a little less, but they told us to notify the departments that potentially would be using that. But that time of year, there shouldn't be too much activity in the courts usually, but we still have this downtime coming up, 27th.
So did you make a motion
I
to
made a motion
reject
if
the
you need a
bid?
motion to reject that.
I think we need a motion.
I
Do
mean,
we
it
have a
sounds
second?
like a lot, but it's really only $190,000 over.
It does not include
Yeah.
removing the ductwork that
And the
is,
flue,
the flue that is constructed out of 1-inch thick metal which is why I assume why they chose not to bid it. There also, at the time, was a question of whether it was insulated with asbestos. That has since been checked, and it is not asbestos.
Oh.
But the timing of the walkthrough and the bid and getting the results back of the test of the insulation was such that two of the three potential bidders decided not to make a bid, and the third made a bid without bidding on the removal cost for the flue.
And who knows how much that was going to be.
And
And they don't even have a rough estimate on the flue removal?
no.
Yeah, and that's what we need to work through.
So
Oh, okay.
So-
So this is a rejection pending.
This
Oh, yeah, we're
Full.
gonna reevaluate this.
we intend,
Oh,
and so
okay.
we're paying, we're gonna have this money available, okay? So it was budgeted in ARPA. We're gonna pay back the general fund. That $850,000 will still be available along with the $1,050,000, so that we could do this project next year if we get all the bugs worked out of it. So
Okay.
that's my hope, at least, that
Well, you just didn't wanna
we'll
rush
be
it.
able to figure it out, but it's gonna take time. Could not be done by the end of December, and so the ARPA money could
Has to
not
be.
be committed that way. So we're going a whole different way, but we're gonna come back to this project. LWC is already taking a deeper dive into the flue. They're talking to rigging companies about how they could go about taking it out. And, you know, we may even have a separate bid on taking out the flue and then go back and rebid the elevator with the flue already gone.
Makes sense.
So that's where we're headed. So there's a motion. Is there a second to reject the one bid?
I guess I've just, the language of rejection is a little bit, reject and further examine. I mean, you know, it just,
No, we're rejecting the
We're
bid as
rejecting
it
this
is now,
rejecting this.
because it's
I
not
will-
what,
The
I
bid
will
is not
s-
the bid may be, I take it may have been responsive, but we've since determined the scope of the
It
work
was,
that we set out to bid is inadequate, and that's the owner's
it was not,
determination.
it was not responsive in that it
Well,
did
that's
not
true.
include removing
and we need
the
this.
flue.
Well, that was in the scope of the work?
Yeah.
Fluid
Yeah,
remo-
that was
okay.
in the original, so
So it's a non-responsive bid.
So once, my question is, we will be able to entertain bids from other bidders by this motion, right?
At
You'll have to
some point-
rebid it.
At some
We'll
point in
have
the
to
future,
totally
we will
rebid
rebid
this,
it.
okay. I want to make sure this motion is adequate to allow
Well, I
additional
mean,
bidders.
I think
We
it,
can rebid anytime we want to.
yeah.
Okay,
And that's our intention.
Absolutely.
okay, so just the motion
May
to
or may not be council's
reject,
intention, but it's my intention.
reject because it's non-responsive, right?
Correct.
We have to have a reason for rejecting it, I think, in that, do you accept that amendment to your motion? Then I'll second that.
All right, so the motion is we're gonna reject this bid as being non-responsive. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, Steve, what else have you got?
Then just.
You had a question, Brett?
No, I just wanted to get back with Steve real quick. I spoke with the sheriff real quick.
Oh, yeah.
The new MCU is not up and running, but the old one is. He's
Still
gonna
operational.
double verify, but he says to believe that it was to stay operational until the other one is up and running. So he just said, let us know when the scheduling is, and
Good, thanks.
Now, back to the elevator. If, God forbid, the elevator inspection, we have troubles with it,
This is an annual inspection that's required by the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, but it's done by the elevator company. They come in to look at all their, you know, the braking system and the control system. And I don't, I mean, we have this serviced every 6 months and it's functional. I don't anticipate.
you don't anticipate any trouble. But, because I've been thinking a lot about what if, to have a contingency plan for courtroom procedures to not be interrupted. We do have that room downstairs in this handicap accessible building that could function as a courtroom. We could disrupt the magistrate. I mean, that's a perfectly good courtroom on the ground floor of the courthouse. I just think that we should have some thoughts about how to have a contingency, non-disruption. And then we've spent a lot of money in this room for
It's a
possible.
beautiful room, isn't it? It works very well.
Yeah,
I'm going to assign that to Aaron, so I'll get Aaron right to work on
courtroom,
figuring out.
non-disruption of courtroom in the event the elevator, does malfunction.
We will consider that.
I mean, this building could provide 2 courtrooms and the magistrate could perhaps have another, I don't know, but
Duly noted.
I just think we need some kind of contingency in the event of elevator
Okay.
disruption.
Steve, what else?
Okay, so you have also before you a sheet that is printed in landscape, and it's the solicited quotes for the solar-powered radar speed sign. We solicited from 3 different sources. You can see the results in the far right-hand corner. That particular company, Elon City out of New York, and that particular brand has also been vetted by the Sheriff's Department with these particular signs. And you can see that we can purchase 20 of these signs at $3,000 a piece. And remember that the sheriff did talk to us, I think, last week about where the
That was the-
locations might be.
Yeah, and that was the company that he had actually already vetted.
Correct. So, and then Ron, you've had an opportunity to look at the purchase agreement for that,
It's actually just a quote.
the quote, but we have to sign it to
Yeah, there's no reason not to sign it. I mean, it's terrible language, but what the heck? It's not our money.
So my recommendation is that you,
It kind of is.
Well, kind of.
my recommendation is that you select the lowest quote of $60,000 for the 20 signs.
And this was ARPA money also.
This is ARPA money.
But we didn't have 60,000 in the.
We had 100,000,
Yeah.
and so we spent about 5,000 on signs at the playgrounds. We'll spend about 60,000, and the sheet that we just
Already
approved
reflected that number.
moves that number from 100,000 over
Are
to.
these, if you know, and you may not, are these the same signs that have been out? I mean, there's one,
No,
there were 2 on Fouts Road, one on just north, one just south of, what's the other road that intersects it there? And half the time they ran, half the time they didn't. I don't know if they were just totally.
Well, if there's several days of overcast, the solar batteries don't charge. And that's
it
how.
does happen from time to time.
Yeah.
The batteries need to be replaced from time to time, but these are not those same signs. These, and the ones you see a lot in some of the small towns already, because we're the county, we have a lot more dealings with NDOT. We are following to the letter the NDOT guidelines, and we will apply for permits to put to NDOT to put the signs up on state highways. So we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's. I guess my only question, and this really is neither here nor there since it's not the low bid, but if 20 signs at $3,000 is $60,000, then how can 20 signs at $4,000 be $63,000?
I didn't do those
I think
numbers.
it's
I'll
close
have to
to
check with the person.
80,000 unless there's some kind of discount for 20 signs, but anyway, again, it's still not the low bid, so it doesn't really matter. You know me in details. I like to-
$79,909.20.
Exactly. Should be, yeah,
So,
clearly almost 80,000.
so
Anyway.
do we need to make a motion
We
to
need
approve?
to
So move that
approve
we purchase the 20 signs from Elon City,
For a total of $60,000.
total of 60,000.
You know, you're actually, looking at the quote, that's for 16 signs. So your math is correct.
Okay.
They only quoted 16, so
Okay.
Okay, so,
And they're still not low, so.
they're still not low.
but we need 20, yeah.
Motion to buy 20 signs for $60,000 from Elon City.
Second,
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
have we decided where
Motion
this is gonna
carries.
go?
Yeah, remember the sheriff talked about that last week,
yeah.
the locations.
And we
There's-
approved those locations?
Correct.
Okay.
And-
Once twice, there, you have to.
Okay.
We don't get any in Dogtown, huh? There's a lot of speeding in Dogtown.
Well, the plan going forward is to have some mobile signs so that we have several that can move to certain different
Okay,
places.
because, yeah. There's certain times of the year when Dogtown has more traffic than others.
Then the final thing I have, just for your information, I gave you a sheet that says online auction activity. And these are the 5 cars that, remember, we put into the auction most recently. And that gives you the amount that was high bids for each one of those. And that was pretty good, I think. And remember, there'll be 5% auctioneer fees taken off this. But when we do those, if we did those in person, it was a 10% charge. So there's the, what we receive for those used vehicles.
It's a win-win.
Yes, it was good.
Do you think these auction bids are significantly higher than what we would have got with a live auction?
A couple of them, I think, would have been, plus the commission is cheaper, so.
Yeah, overall,
still-
we did it higher.
Bear the expense of removing the identification decals.
Yes.
We take that off before we take it to the auction
Okay.
site.
Okay,
I
Steve,
have, Jeff.
that's all you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I have something. I remember when you came to the rescue of ladies in the powder rooms being splattered by water?
It's happening again.
It's happening
I
again.
heard this yesterday.
Oh, you did, okay.
From the commissioner's staff.
I'll,
And it's not just on this level, it's most levels.
there's water saving nozzles have real small holes and they get calcified and
So the fix is to decalcify those
Right.
nozzles, right?
There's a decalcification request.
we don't have
from-
a water softener in this building.
No, we don't need water softener.
But if you decalcify the nozzles, don't they just unscrew?
And they just have to be,
Put them in some CLR for a while? and
yeah.
Boy,
And it lasts for
do
about
that
9
every-
months.
every 6 months we'll
I prefer to have people
decalcify.
complain.
Do you? I thought so.
And it's complaint
You,
driven.
you got your wish.
I got my wish.
And I don't know why the men's room doesn't.
Because I drilled those holes bigger.
I think we should bring a
Wow, that
a
sounds
lawsuit.
like a problem. Okay.
That's all I have.
Either that or
Jeff.
men
all
aren't
you
washing their
have.
hands. We should have an
I assure
inspection.
you that at least some of them are. EDC contract with Economy.
The economy has signed their contract. It needs to go to commissioners for approval and then to council tonight.
Okay. So this is their participation.
Unit
contract.
contribution agreement?
Correct. Unit contribution agreement. So they have agreed to contribute 50% of their edit funds to the consolidated edit fund. Do you have that?
Yes.
Could you, here, please? Thank you. So I believe at
Move
this
for
point.
the president to sign that economy agreement.
A motion, and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll sign this and as others come in, so I believe Richmond, Centerville, Cambridge City, now Economy. Of course, we have signed off on that.
What about Hagerstown? Did they renew for 1 year in 2025, is that what they?
You tell me, because I think they can't renew for 1 year. It's a contract between the two, us and them, and the contract.
Not without
that we
our
put to
agreeing.
it. Exactly. So, if you read the newspaper, they decided that they did not want to participate at all, but their attorney told them that they were too late to opt out of 2025. I don't think that's
not the way the
correct.
contract reads. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
you can't make it much
4-year
clearer. I mean,
each
it
one's
says.
a 4-year contract.
I think it actually states that there is a notice requirement if you do not intend to renew, but that failure to give the notice does not affect a renewal. It's just for allowing budgetary planning purposes for the EDC.
So that I talked to Valerie yesterday. She would like to have some further discussions, and so with them and with us, and I don't see that we need to do anything at the moment. There's no urgency to it, and I am personally not inclined to reduce the number of years.
It's a slippery slope, and we did allow it once with the city of Richmond, to renew for less than the full length of the remaining term of the contract, base contract between the county and EDC, but that was in part at the request of the administration because the mayor felt uneasy committing to something that would have extended beyond his administration, which we respect.
The fact of the matter is that years ago, 20 plus years ago, we made a 4-year contract so that every elected official who had to make that decision, either a yes or no vote, that it would come up at least once during their term of office. So the commissioners, the councils all have a 4-year term of office, so it became a 4-year contract. Obviously, the terms aren't all the same, and especially with the city being in the odd year reelection, you can't make it in year one of everybody's contract and have one renewal period. So I think that my conversations with the city, they're comfortable with a 4-year contract and have signed off on it. So at any rate, we don't need to make a final decision yet, but Valerie wants to have some further conversations with us and them, and we'll see where we go from here. But most of the communities that are not currently a part continue to choose to not be a part. It may be time to rethink how we do this, but we've got plenty of time to make those kinds of decisions going forward. The help shelter contract that we approved, we need to get back with help on that. So we'll continue to work that. The ARPA allocations, we already approved the EDC contract. There is one other thing that we need to look at. So as we're continuing to work with Dr. Stacy on doing some things for animals, she has continued to work with different groups to do low-cost spay and neuter clinics. And so this week there was a final one scheduled for this year that took place. And the cost of that is $1,011, of which half of that was to be paid by us and half by the city. So my recommendation is we pay $505.50 to the Animal Care Alliance for sponsoring that event, and we pay for that out of our animal welfare line in our general fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve that invoice, or paying that invoice out of our general fund budget. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Well, speaking of Dr.
Motion
Stacy, though, the executive director or the president of the board of Help the Animals made reference on more than one occasion during our meeting with them that I've not been able to get out of my mind. And that is that they are at 150% of capacity, and that dogs, not cats, but dogs are in cages. And from everything I've read, that it is highly inhumane for dogs to be housed in cages, not kennels, but cages. And she also said that their population is made up primarily of larger dogs, not smaller dogs. So that I would hope, as you're speaking to Dr. Stacy, you would ask her to examine our contracting shelter, Help the Animals, for the humanity, the humane qualities of those dogs that are being sheltered in cages, for the humaneness of that accommodation. Because, you know, in better weather conditions, some of those dogs could very well be better on the street than they are under our county's inhumane shelter. A cage can make a healthy dog vicious. Caging of a healthy dog is not humane. And for us to continue to drive our county contracted shelter to 150% of capacity is something that we must address. It is making adoptable dogs unadoptable and vicious. So please, going forward, examine that and ask Dr. Stacy to look at what sounds to me like inhumane sheltering of dogs provided by our county officer.
Okay, thank you. You have the minutes and the claims.
Yes. Move for approval of the following claims. The Chase MasterCard claims dated December 12th. Regular claims in 2 tranches, one dated auditors, why is this dated January 8th?
What claim is it?
It's a lot of different claims for regular legal services, Whitewater Valley Community TV, historical.
They're all claims that we pay once a year at the first of the year on a contractual basis. We just pull them out and do Cross's contract, we pay once a year.
What?
But these would be paid in 3 weeks from now? Why are we getting it today?
We have contracts, so you see them, I
Right.
guess, because we're gonna go ahead and
End
pay
of the
them.
year for you, Ron.
No,
We're just gonna pay Ron at the end of the year, is that?
you pay a monthly in arrears.
Now, these are monthly
Yeah, I don't-
in arrears.
But if we're only gonna pay you once, I think we should pay at the end of the year.
These are not annual payments
You haven't seen
like
their interest rate.
the Reed Ambulance Service, that's their monthly
That's
amount.
monthly.
Boston Beaver is a monthly amount.
Right,
Historical Society is the monthly amount.
those are all ones that are in your budgets that are either under contract, and we pay them, we separate those because we have them paid once a month.
We haven't got a contract yet executed for 2025.
But is this like the December payment since it's paid in arrears?
Should be.
Yes.
Yes.
But you're not gonna pay claims again until January.
Right,
So that's why
we're trying to get
it's
those,
dated when it's gonna be
Correct.
paid.
Yeah.
But we need
That's
to
fine.
approve them today as our last official meeting in December.
And then they
It's
will
just
pay them.
unusual to see claims dated 3 weeks in advance, but since
Yeah,
these
I
are paid in
understand.
arrears, I just thought I need to ask it, but I do.
It sounds like that's totally okay. There's legal basis to pay it because you've got the existing contract.
It's just an exceptional site.
It is.
Thank you. And also regular claims dated today, December 18th.
Okay, we can go that route.
Those are additional county general, one-time expenditures, burial of soldiers, so you can make claims today.
Yes.
Yes, and these are the regular claims.
And I have told council and commissioners, if we have a claim between now and the end of the year, we'll make every effort to get it paid.
And a lot of settlements with other units of government,
Right.
which they would appreciate.
We
Move
closed
for,
on a revolving loan fund loan last week.
Right. Yeah, it was last
And
week.
appreciate Mark and his office getting us the checks we
Absolutely.
need for that. Because we haven't had much activity in that area, and that was nice to be able to.
right. Thanks for the clarification, it's just unusual.
I didn't do a very good job of it, but
No,
that's it.
you did. I needed clarification.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, all three of these
Second.
claims.
A motion and a second to approve the claims. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Also move for approval of Commissioners' minutes dated December 11th.
Second,
Second.
beat you to it. Why
Okay.
not?
Get used to that.
All in favor of approving the minutes of December 11th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Ron. Because I just want to know, because my notes down here don't indicate it. On that Sugar Creek, I pay what we currently have, or I don't pay anything.
Okay. You should have Sugar Creek's monies in two separate line items, or you should be accounting for them.
We are.
90% is what's pledged to the bonds, and that's what you pay. You hold back that 10% that's unrestricted.
Right, that's not what I'm asking. They didn't pay the full.
I know, all you can pay is what you got. I'm just saying, whatever you
My
got
question is,
there.
do I pay that,
Yes. The trustee.
even though it does not meet their requirement, or their,
We're just gonna
It's not
set
over
this
the
down.
requirement.
it's under.
Yeah,
Discuss this.
I would give them, it's probably electronic transfer.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and pay them what you got in that 90% account.
Work from home.
Well, I've contacted them,
We need
And they know
an executive session
they're
to
to
do
find
that.
out
It's
to pay
revisiting
that
the same
fall.
issue
tax.
from
They're probably not going to do that.
No, apparently
the
not.
sheriff.
So we need to
You know,
set that
There'd
before.
be no need now, because they're still gonna get a 10%
Still gonna
penalty.
get a penalty, and I think they were probably looking at other issues when they made that decision. So we'll just
But
leave it.
I do pay what I currently have.
Right.
Anything else besides this?
And that's Sugar Creek, not if that situation would arise, you pay everything that you currently have. Now, if you get a bill from them wanting their trustees fee, and you don't have anything in that restricted account, you don't pay it.
Well, if the money's gone, I can't pay
Well,
it.
that was your zero balance statement you got for November.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the last issues to tie up on ARPA is there was $22,000-ish left in the Main Street revitalization program. And so we went to the next highest scoring application, which is a property in East Germantown, owned by Phil and Tila McQueen. And they have accepted that $20-some thousand. Do we have it? $21,036.20. And so rather than transferring that amount of money to another project paid for by ARPA funds, it's important to actually spend this entire $1 million because we used it as match money in the ready application for additional Main Street revitalization money. So If you recall, that $1 million from us, $1 million from the city, and then we added another $1.2 million split between Wayne County Edit and Consolidated Edit, and we're asking for $3 million of ready funding. We haven't heard yet whether we will receive that, but it seemed far cleaner to go to the next person on the list. As it turned out, they were only asking for about $24,000 for their project to begin with, and we were able to do the $22,000. They accepted that. We have all the paperwork here. So we need permission to enter into this contract with the McQueens, and it requires the president's signature.
Is that a commercial enterprise?
It is. It is.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding on the Main Street Revitalization Program with the McQueens in East Germantown. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That little town is looking good.
Yeah, it is.
Beth, I did the deed restriction, so I take it she has that, and once this is signed, she'll get that deed restriction.
She will do that and get
Get
the
it recorded.
McQueen's signature on this, so we're signing it first. Today is the 18th. So Bobby, anything else?
No.
Brad?
Yeah, I'd like to, with the weather kind of getting cold, possibly consider making a donation using opioid funds to the homeless shelter or the warming station.
The warming station that is run by Pastor Jesse.
Yeah.
Coordinating that. So do you have and this would be unrestricted opioid funds?
Yeah, I don't think we can use restricted on that, so
I don't either.
I'd like to, at least, I'd make the recommendation 5,000. I think we'd go a long way with them this winter.
Yes.
Comment, you brought this up a couple weeks
Yes,
ago.
right. I really appreciate that. That would be very helpful. I'm just not real certain that there's that much remaining after the sheriff.
There is.
Oh, you did check on the,
We checked.
how much is remaining in unrestricted?
I don't
I
recall.
want to say it was like $11,000, but I've slept since then, but I know there's enough.
5,000 would be helpful. Now, the ICAP has been paying for those that are very much in need of shelter, but are currently under, that are not clean from opioids, okay, and cannot be housed with families and the like that are in the church, and so they have to be housed in hotels. But the church, screens for those that are not clean. But just because they're not clean doesn't mean that they should be turned out on the street. Would you consider an amendment to that an additional 2,000 of restricted be given to the church when they screen out those that are not allowed to be housed in the church?
Specifically to
Opioid,
to
house those that are
drug users.
drug
current
users that are
users.
not, I just feel bad that just because they can't test clean, that they're turned out in the street in
I
such
have no
zero
problem with
weather.
that. I'll amend my motion to $5,000 to the warming station to be used at the warming station for them.
And
2,000 to be
2,000
used
for those
for
that test
paying
out.
for
That can't be
motels for
admitted.
them to stay in, for the ones that they can't stay there for whatever reason.
Thank
Leave it
you.
at that.
I don't want them freezing to death.
And that's my
either.
motion.
So that's a motion. I will second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Opposed, same sign.
all I
Motion
have.
carries. All right, anything else?
Yes, I would just like to say that I want to thank you for your excellent partnership and governance over the last 12 years. I've certainly enjoyed working with Ron consistently, the only one that has shared this, and with Steve as well.
That's a
for
little
these
bit of
12
revisionist
years.
history because we got out on a little rocky start, but that's all right. It smoothed out pretty
So you didn't enjoy all 12 years, but
I-
maybe 10?
well. Wasn't that long, maybe a month or two.
We certainly have had our ravines and grassy plots. And I especially want to thank Mike Emery for his most generous profile in last week's Western Wayne News.
Is that all true? It's
You
not
don't
a,
know.
not a fictional account, right? It was all true, okay? Just checking.
I edited out some of the more courageous, outrageous adventures in my career and hobbies. My hobbies have not been low-risk kind of endeavors, I'll have to admit. But I want to thank you. As I said in my interview with Mike, Wayne County is extremely well-governed, as witnessed by our ability to keep taxes in check and to keep the government well-managed. I think the people of Wayne County can rest easy knowing that their government has been, and I think, Jeff, you can take some credit for that, having been at the helm of both the council and the commissioners for 30 years?
20, this is my 26th year.
26, okay,
So it'll be
over
30.
3 decades really of leadership. And Ron, keeping us out of state police, having us clean out our desks, which I will do momentarily. Aaron, I will clean out my desk, but many other counties have had investigations into their governance being shy of excellence. So I think the county needs to be praised for that. And Bobby, thank you for keeping us ever organized and never trusting us with the sole piece of paper that might go astray. But after 12 years, thank you all. Thank you for the citizens and entrusting me with these 12 years of your
So you're
representation.
talking like this is your last meeting, but your last meeting is tonight.
It's my last
workshop.
commissioners meeting.
Last commissioners meeting, but
Mary Ann, I would congratulate you on your years of service. I will say that in the 12 years, as your background became more announced by you with your various prior endeavors, I concluded with Jeff that I don't know why, but Mary Ann can't keep a job. But in any event, congratulations.
Well, I will admit, this is the longest I've ever kept a job.
really,
Really.
wow, okay.
Yes. And which is amazing that I didn't get fired once every 4 years. Thank you so much for that.
Butterscotch candy works.
I did have something else I forgot that I
Yes.
was checking my notes. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the president, Jeff Plaster, to finalize if there's anything, since this is going to be our last commissioner meeting, if there's any tweaking that needs to be done on the ARPA funds between now and the end of the year, the 31st, allow him to do that.
Council's gonna have one more meeting on the 30th.
The
so that
30th,
would-
at that 30th with the council.
We're not going to meet with them.
We're not.
No.
That
We
it's not really necessary. If you'd rather do that, I suppose we can, but.
Is that legal for us to give our carte blanche to the president?
Typically, yes, because then what we would do, even though, I don't know what the
Just
tweaking would
confirm it in
involve, but we
January.
would,
The only
typically
thing I
then
can think of is
ratify.
if there's any changes in the ARPA,
Expenses that we get in the last
Spreadsheet.
I
minute.
appreciate what you're trying to do. We don't want to be,
Well, I think I think the motion as I suggested, and I don't know if it was actually made that way, was that exhibit be adopted as the transfer subject to verification, because I think you and Steve are gonna look at that later
Right.
today.
right? But when council meets on the 30th, if
30th.
there's any changes that
That we can make there.
need to be worked through, I think that's the issue. But if you would rather meet, I just need to make sure that you're actually gonna be in town.
'Cause
that
I
day
won't be
because Brad's not,
Oh, you won't be here?
and he can't join me by Zoom if I'm the only one there. There has to be,
So it's kinda
has
like
to be a
the-
majority in the room.
Unless, what if a motion was made along the lines of, I authorize the president to give commissioner approval to what council certifies at its December 30th meeting? Something to that
I
effect.
think that's kind
I
of
think that's what he's
Yeah, it's,
implying.
Is that what you
I didn't
said?
get to finish, but yes, but as long as it's tweaking this with council's adjustments at that meeting, if there's something that needs to be, we authorize him to.
And I'm hopeful that there will be
I'm
nothing
hoping,
that
yeah,
needs
but-
to be changed.
I just don't want to lose out if there's something that comes in and we,
Well, if something comes in under budget.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what is left to come
well,
in.
let's hope it doesn't, but just
Is
in case.
that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second
So it's in,
to allow the president to work with council at their meeting on the 30th to make any final tweaks to this ARPA spreadsheet that would allow us to keep,
Maximize our.
maximize our
our
return of
funds.
ARPA funds. And only for that.
Yes,
No
only
other
for that.
purpose.
right.
Okay, any
Or
further
fix the
discussion?
women's bathroom. even for
Or,
that.
yeah, or decalcify the nozzles on the,
Splattering in the,
any further
de-splatter.
discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, are we absolutely sure that there's nothing else we need to do today? This
Till
morning,
tonight.
at
Well, I
least,
guess
until
we-
tonight. We need
So
to do
tonight,
some
if
things
something comes
tonight.
up, so.
Okay. If not, then we will adjourn.